Welcome back, everyone. Today, we're diving straight into an explainer on what is essentially the ultimate picks and shovels play of the entire biopharma boom, West Pharma's Q2 2026. If you really want to understand the hidden high-margin engine that's powering today's most massive healthcare trends, you don't necessarily look at the companies actually making the drugs. Nope, you look at the companies making it possible to safely deliver those drugs to the patients. And, well, that is exactly what West Pharma does. As we're going to see, they're doing it with some truly incredible financial efficiency. Let's get into it.
Right out of the gate, we have to talk about their earnings per share. $2.37 adjusted diluted EPS. That is a massive 28.8% year-over-year jump for the second quarter of 2026. I mean, in the world of manufacturing and packaging, nearly 30% EPS growth is just absolute blockbuster territory. It's a huge signal that something fundamental is rapidly accelerating within their business model, and it's driving a massive financial surge right from the top.
And this EPS growth isn't just, clever bottom-line financial engineering or simple cost-cutting. We are looking at explosive top-line growth paired with expanding profitability. Net sales jumped from $766.5 million back in Q2 2025 to over $872 million this quarter. That's almost a 14% reported increase. But here is the absolutely crucial part. Their adjusted operating profit margin actually expanded by 230 basis points, moving from 20.3% up to 22.6%. Think about that. When a company can aggressively grow its revenues while simultaneously widening its profit margins, that's how you establish total market dominance.
Section 1. Powering the GLP-1 boom.
Okay, so here's the industry's best-kept secret. We hear constantly in the news about the incredible science behind all these GLP-1 weight loss blockbuster drugs. But the reality? That miracle liquid is entirely useless if you can't safely get it into a patient's body. When someone injects a drug, the containment system, the stoppers, the seals, the auto-injector mechanisms, all of it literally must be perfectly sterile and highly functional. There's no room for error. West produces the exact critical components that make these injections possible. They are quite literally the essential bridge between the laboratory and a patient's living room. And to put the sheer scale of this GLP-1 phenomenon into perspective for West's bottom line, it's staggering. GLP-1s now make up 18% of their total company revenues. That 18% is split between their GLP-1 elastomer revenues at 10% and GLP-1 West Vantage revenues at 8%. It is incredibly rare for a single class of drugs to command nearly a fifth of a diversified global packaging giant's revenue. But it just goes to show you, as the GLP-1 market explodes, West is riding that wave right alongside it.
Section 2. Proprietary products dominate Q2.
So at first glance, you might just see what looks like seemingly mundane pieces of rubber and plastic. But this visual simplicity is super deceptive. These proprietary elastomer stoppers and seals are engineered to exact microscopic specifications to guarantee zero contamination for life-saving drugs. Because the regulatory and safety stakes are so incredibly high, these little components command massive premium pricing. Actually, to give you a number, this proprietary segment generated $722.6 million this quarter alone, operating at a massive 29.3% profit margin. That margin is up 320 basis points from last year. So yeah, they aren't just stoppers. They are highly engineered, incredibly profitable pieces of intellectual property. Breaking down the exact components driving this growth gives us a really clear picture of what's happening. The proprietary segment is split into three main areas. Standard components were, well, relatively flat, showing just 0.7% organic growth. But the high-value products, or HVP, totally different story. HVP components were up 18.4% organically, driven by huge demand for premium brands like NovaPure and Fluorotec. And even more impressive, HVP delivery devices absolutely skyrocketed by 29.2% organically. This includes advanced systems like SmartDose and Crystal Zenith. The entire industry is rapidly shifting away from standard packaging and just pouring money into these complex high-value containment systems.
Section 3. Navigating a cyber incident.
Now, it wasn't a completely flawless quarter. A recent cyber incident directly impacted manufacturing efficiencies in West's contract manufacturing segment, which is known as West Vantage. While the West Vantage revenue actually held remarkably steady, even growing slightly to $149.7 million, the operating margin took a pretty significant hit. It dropped from 12.1% in Q2 2025 down to 8.6% this quarter. It's a pretty stark reminder that in this modern era of highly automated, heavily regulated pharmaceutical manufacturing, cyber vulnerabilities can squeeze your gross margins in a heartbeat, even when customer demand is completely rock solid.
Section 4. Global Reach and Growth.
Zooming out to look at the geographic split of that $872.3 million in net sales, we see a really balanced Western footprint. The Americas generated 44% of sales, while the EMEA region, so Europe, Middle East, and Africa, slightly edged it out at 46%. This almost even split between the two major global pharmaceutical hubs gives West a highly stable, diversified revenue base. But this sets up a fascinating geographical twist when we look at that last little slice of the pie.
And here is exactly where the future momentum lies. The Asia-Pacific region, or APAC, represents just 10% of West's total sales. It's by far the smallest slice. However, that specific region generated a staggering 27% organic growth year over year. So, while the established markets in the Americas and Europe are providing this massive volume and stability, the really explosive, rapid adoption of high-value biopharma packaging is currently accelerating fastest over in the Asian markets.
So, what is keeping all this growth going into the future? Well, beyond just the GLP-1 weight loss craze, there are two massive structural tailwinds at play here. First, complex biologics now drive 43% of West's total revenue. These are incredibly sensitive drugs that absolutely require high-value, advanced packaging to survive. Second, there are new, much stricter global regulatory frameworks coming into play, specifically something called Annex 1. Because of these tighter rules, pharmaceutical companies are literally being forced to upgrade their packaging quality. West estimates this creates a potential upgrade opportunity spanning roughly 6 billion individual components. That's a multi-year pipeline of forced customer upgrades.
Which brings us to our final thought. We've seen EPS jump nearly 30%. Profit margins are expanding, and the world's new blockbuster drugs rely entirely on these specific delivery systems. But when you factor in a regulatory cycle that could force the upgrade of 6 billion individual components globally, you really have to ask, are we merely at the very beginning of this massive global upgrade cycle? It seems the picks and shovels of the biopharma world are quietly digging up an absolute goldmine. Thanks for joining this explainer, and we will catch you on the next one.